Okay, all right. Looks like we're about ready to get started here. Um, Good morning, everybody. My name is James. I'm here with Antoinette, and today we're going to be going over how you can use the Socratic method in your homeschool. And I'm the sort of director of marketing, um, the director of marketing for ShillerLearning, and Antoinette is the director of sales for ShillerLearning, and we're here to really just kind of help you guys do as much as we can to make your homeschool really an amazing place to teach your children and really get them to love learning. So with that, I think Antoinette, would you like to get started? I'll go ahead and pull up the slides here. Um,
Absolutely. That sounds great.
Great. Awesome.
I'm very excited to have everyone with us today. My voice may be slightly scratchy. I've just coming off of a convention this weekend and had done lots and lots of talking.
Good, good. There were a lot of excited parents there.
Absolutely. A lot of very excited parents, people bringing their friends and relatives back to the booth. It was great.
Awesome, awesome. So I don't know if you can see my screen. I've got the
Okay.
presentation
Yes.
pulled up. So
That is now up for me. Okay, so thank you everyone for joining us for the Encouraging Curious Minds with the Socratic Method webinar today. And we're going to dive right in. Let's see. There we go. So along with the Montessori method and Howard Gardner's theory of multiple intelligences, the Schiller learning curriculum is heavily influenced by the Socratic method, and for good reason. Today, we'll take a look at ways you can implement the Socratic method into your child's education. And it's a really good fit for homeschooling. And I think this philosophy is very similar to what you already hold. And I love this quote from Socrates: I cannot teach anybody anything, I can only make them think. And that's probably what you're already trying to do with your children, is helping them learn how to think. There are three simple steps, easy for me to say, three simple steps to use the Socratic method with any subject. And that's going to be to clarify, synthesize, and restate. Okay, let's take a look at that clarifying. First, you want to remain calm when your child has made a mistake. We're going to make the most of the opportunity of the mistake that your child has just made. So stay calm. And sometimes this can be hard to do when we're used to correcting our kids' mistakes. A lot of us are in the habit of, when our child makes a mistake, we're just going to, in a reactionary way, give them the correct answer. But children learn much more effectively from their mistakes and are less likely to repeat them in the future if we enable them, empower them to discover their mistakes for themselves and then discover that correct answer. Now, along these lines, it's important not to acknowledge when your child has made a mistake. We don't want to tip them off. So kids are always watching us, and they can tell from our body language and tone of voice and facial expressions when something is wrong. So the challenge here is we're going to ask a question, but we don't want to give away clues in that question where they should look. We want them to start thinking about things. So we don't want them to read us for the correct answer, or in this case, the wrong answer. And, this may seem counterintuitive, but it's going to build their inner critical thinking voice. And critical thinking skills are crucial for a good education. And you want to do this as long as consequences are not life-threatening or dangerous, right, James?
Yeah,
um,
that's right. That's right. We
uh,
pulling the Socratic
and
method for crossing the street, maybe not the best place to do it.
exactly. And so, when we're looking at crossing the street, for example, that's a great one, James. We not don't necessarily want to start asking, well, what do you think will happen if we cross the street and this car is coming? Um, that's a good opportunity to step in and do that reactionary autocorrect that
Yeah,
we do as parents.
exactly. Exactly.
Uh, so there indeed are instances when the Socratic method would not be appropriate, and in instances of danger, that would be one of them. Okay, so now we've stayed calm, and now we're gonna synthesize this by asking a question whose answer is the correct answer for the child for the question that your child just answered incorrectly. We call this a light bulb question. This question is designed to help that child discover their own mistake. And we'll take a look at an example of that in just a moment. We'll go through examples. So you want to ask a question. If the child has just, incorrectly answered what's 5 times 7, you're going to ask a series of questions that are designed to help them discover their own mistake. And then once the child has discovered their mistake, even if it's not in that first question, you may again have to ask a series. Then we're going to go to step 3, is where now we're giving the child the opportunity to state the correct answer based on their new knowledge. So as soon as they discover their error, we're going to allow them to correct themselves. Again, resisting that urge to jump in and state the conclusion that they've just come to. Then circle back to the original question, and in the same way we'd use the 3-period lesson, we're going to, allow them to, go ahead and re-give their answer. This is, again, going to reinforce their inner critical thinking voice. Okay, so examples of that. If you ask your child to, bring you a triangle, but they brought you a trapezoid, the light bulb question could be to ask them to bring you a trapezoid. Now, if that doesn't automatically bring that self-realization in the child, you can start asking them some other questions. How many sides does a triangle have? How many points does a triangle have? What things in their environment are shaped like a triangle? Or questions like, a roof is, what shape is a roof? What shape is a slice of pizza? Other questions that are helped to spark that self-discovery. And then in the case that the child, even after a series of questions, is not able to self-identify and self-discover that mistake, we can always go back to that 3-period lesson, and where you're then reintroducing that shape just as if doing it for the very first time. And so in the example of some shapes, you're going to, follow those guidelines of asking for the material that was misidentified, and then asking questions about that originally asked for material. Now, in the case that your child misspells a word, like for instance, the word pearl, Pearl, in lesson book 247, and they misspell that as Perel, one of the things that you could do is to write out a simple 3 to 8 word sentence with the word pearl in it. For example, the clam has a pearl. And then ask the child. So the light bulb question in this instance would then be to ask the child to point out the word pearl in the sentence. Another way that you could do that would be to write pearl with some other similar words on cards and ask them to identify the word pearl. Another great tool that's used in Montessori, you can create word cards and then have the actual physical objects that go along with them and ask the child to match those. And so also pulling in, as you're doing that Socratic method, as many concrete real world examples also is going to support that learning. And so picture cards, actual physical items, those are all going to help cement those things. And then again, if those going through a series of questions isn't helping them to identify that mistake, then you can back up, and your fail safe is always going to be just going back to that first step in the Montessori 3-period lesson. Another example of this would be if your child forgets, in our activity pack that's coming out for April, you're going to absolutely love this. James, I'm really excited about the Grace and Courtesy activity pack. Is that blog post up yet?
It is not. It's actually still in review, so we'll go ahead and let everybody know as soon as that's up.
Okay. And would you like to tell folks a little bit about that? Like I said, I'm really excited for it.
Sure. Yeah, it's what the Grace and Courtesy pack is literally just like it sounds. Basically, teaching your children some simple life skills around manners, etiquette, social interactions, as well as ways that they can sort of practice those things. Things like setting the table, things like knowing when to write a thank you note, things like when to let somebody pass you if you're on the sidewalk. Sort of a lot of the life skills that maybe kids don't get to practice, or kids don't get to play a lot of games with. And we do have a Grace and Courtesy board game inside of this printable pack, which I'm really excited for to share with you all, because it's got all sorts of different ways that you can encourage those habits with your kids while at the same time making it a fun game. So that should be coming out pretty soon. We've got the pack itself is done, but the blog post is not done yet. So we'll let everybody know as soon as the blog post is out where you can download the pack.
Okay, excellent. And if for those of you who aren't aware, we do put out free activity packs on a monthly basis, and they are all Montessori based. They're cross-disciplinary and also run the gamut of the age spectrum. So there will be things for, pre-K all the way through high school level students to benefit from in those. Right now there's a a road schooling pack, and that has activities for the whole family to do while you're on the road to vacation or when you're going to a homeschool convention. That also has a list of our homeschool conventions. So back to that Grace and Courtesy activity pack. One of the activities in there is showing the child how to set the table. And so if your child forgot how to properly do that and made a mistake, then a light bulb question could be to ask the child, what side of the plate does a knife go on? And if the child if doesn't self-discover that error, but often, again, that question is enough for them, to trigger that. You can go again through that series of questions, starting back from the beginning. Where does the plate go? Where does the napkin go? Guiding them through step by step, thinking and reanalyzing the process that they're going through. Because what you really want to focus on is the process and value that process, because if they learn the process, they're going to get to the right answer. And so right answers are good, but the process is what you really want to focus on. And then if through that series of questions, they're still not discovering it, our fail-safe, I hope you all remember what that is by now. The fail-safe is that Montessori 3-period lesson. And so you can simply back up to that picture in the activity pack of the place setting and start back introducing it as if the mistakes had never happened. And so it's always judgment-free. We're not scolding them either with our tone of voice for having forgotten or our facial expressions or our body language. We're not showing disappointment and those negative things that once we associate all of that disappointment and shame with learning, that actually teaches your child to not value the learning process and not value the opportunities of growth that mistakes present to them. So we want to avoid those things. It's very important. Keep it judgment free because the goal is to encourage children to develop the supportive habits that will serve them not just in learning how to, identify shapes and spell words and how to set the table, but, habits that are going to serve them for their whole lives. We want to create lifelong learners who absolutely love learning and gobble up all of the opportunities to do so. If you have any questions during the presentation, please do enter them into the chat box. Anything we don't get to during the presentation will be answered in the Q&A at the end. And there we go. Okay, so that brings us to mistakes that often parents will make when using the Socratic method, especially when just beginning to implement it. Once you get into the habit, it's like most habits, it'll be easy to follow. The stumbling comes when you're first doing it. So, forgetting to recap at the end of a lesson. Well, actually, I just spotted a mistake of my own, and that is that I have forgetting to recap at the end of the lesson as the title, and this is the mistakes. And that is the third mistake. I just self-identified my mistake.
Great. I didn't even need to ask a light bulb question.
And I must have, because at one point it did have the title. Okay. So I am joyful in learning that, discovering my mistake. And that is the first mistake that parents do make. And that is um, doing things that take the joy out of discovery for the child. And so we want to not do that. So we don't want to ask leading questions that are patronizing and leading questions that attempt to show them the correct point of view instead of searching for the truth. This discovery and mystery is what makes the Socratic method like a game or detective novel. And kids will really learn to value that questioning. And by modeling your behavior, they are going to learn to ask questions of other people that are going to help them in all learning. And then the next mistake is leaving out the loving guidance. And that's going to be using questions to emphasize the wrong answer instead of the right one. James, if you want to go ahead and start playing that video, because sometimes that does take a little bit. If you click just below leaving out loving guidance, it should. Oh, it's not. Okay.
I can pull it up here.
Okay, excellent. Thank you.
Let's see
It
here.
was embedded there in the middle. Awesome. And so this video of the paper chase professor is a great example of how not to implement the Socratic method. And
Yep.
okay, sorry. So thanks for getting that to play, James. Couple of reasons I love this example. First, it's the setting is a university. And that is where the Socratic method is often implemented in a very successful way. And so this is something that we can use that's in higher learning that's going to help make our students better right now. The other reason I love this is that he's big time making not just that second mistake of leaving out loving guidance, but also completely robbing the students of joyful discovery.
Exactly.
So the professor's goal here
don't do this.
Right. He is shaming and discouraging students rather than teaching them. Now, I do appreciate that he was, maybe a little perturbed that the student had not done his assigned reading, but shame and discouragement is not the best way to correct behavior. And the Socratic method can actually be used in behavioral corrections as well. And so, what he's doing here is the often misunderstood version of spare the rod, spoil the child. Now, and he's using that rod as a weapon as opposed to guiding with the rod. So mistakes. So what he is doing is making the students feel as though the questioning is actually a form of cruel entertainment as opposed to guiding the student to discover the correct answer. And the method in this case is not being used as an effective teacher. It's going to become a debate as opposed to having the mutual respect that's essential for implementing that Socratic method. Okay, that brings us to our third mistake, and that is forgetting to recap at the end of a lesson. New learning needs to be cemented at the end of a lesson. An example of this would be that the child is not given that opportunity for that restatement and to be able to comprehensively now express the correct terms and concepts and ideas that they've just gone through that self-discovery of learning. So you want to be sure to give the child the opportunity to do that. And it's really, a proud moment for them when they have now discovered their error and corrected that, and they have this new conclusion that they're beaming about and facts that they want to share with people. And you'll find that when they've gotten the to participate in a joyful discovery process and you've guided them with love, not only do they want to share the correct answer with you, but they want to tell other people about that too. And it's great to see our kids just beaming with the joy of learning and self-discovery. So we want to recap and reinforce at the end of every lesson. And something that will be a great tool in doing that is the concept index in our books. That's going to enable you, if they want to do more on that concept, then you can simply look that concept up in the book and you'll see additional activities that they can do that pertain to that. So there's a lot of really convenient, easy to use flexibility built into the program. So give them that opportunity to recap, restate, and reinforce. And that also means, by the way, that if your child wants to go back and revisit that very lesson the next day, don't pressure them to, hey, you got that, let's move on. And that's something that we cover in the 3 possible outcomes of a lesson. There's a white paper on that, a link to that in your downloads. That white paper comes in every box of books with the kits, and it's included in a lot of our other webinars. You can check those out on YouTube. I'm not going to dive into that in this one.
And the link you'll get from this will actually take you to our YouTube channel, so you'll be able to see it there.
Oh, excellent. Thanks, James. And then, James, do you want to talk about why it's going to give kids the same quality education as Harvard's MBA program?
Sure. Yeah, that's this is actually this is a great great topic. I know it seems like a crazy promise, and I know it seems like something that seems almost too good to be true, but the reality is that the Socratic method, there's kind of there's a teaching tool in higher education called Bloom's taxonomy, and I wish we had a photo here to show it. But really, there are several levels of learning, and really, the big thing that we want to emphasize is, what are we doing when we're buying all these books? We're going through these courses. We're getting our children to enroll in summer school programs. I mean, obviously, summer school is coming up quickly, or in homeschool's case, obviously doing like camps, activity camps during the summertime, being able to do something that's, outside of the house. What are we trying to do? We're really trying to give our kids the ability to live happy, productive lives, to have, happiness, to have a fulfilling career, to, be able to make enough money at the end of the day to be able to support themselves, and just in general have good community and good relationships with people around them. And the way that that this happens is there are typically they've done a study and they looked at what is it that makes up happiness. What are the skills? What are the tactics that make up happiness? And there are really 8 skills that it comes down to. And Antoinette, is there a list of the skills on this? I don't believe so, but I think you have the list.
Oh, yes. The skills are resilience, optimism, focus, generosity, self-control, mindfulness, gratitude, and empathy.
Yes, and you guys will have all our notes from this when we send out the presentation. You'll have a link to this presentation, so you'll be able to get those notes as well. But these 8 skills come down to really building the core building blocks in what Bloom's taxonomy calls the levels of learning. At the lowest level, you have remembering. At basically, if we're going to use an example of and Antoinette, let's see here, I might as well just I'll pull up Bloom's taxonomy here. That's just easier to do. Taxonomy is, okay. Let's see here. So you got 6 levels that you're really looking at, and at the lowest level we have something like remembering facts, concepts. The next level up you have understanding, whether or not your child can explain them to a peer or can explain them to one of their siblings or a family member. Applying, can they use this idea to do new things with it? Can they analyzing? Can they actually make connections between different ideas? Evaluating, when somebody comes to them with a new idea, are they able to compare it to all the other ideas in their mind on that topic? And then finally creating, which is the sort of the highest level of learning, which is where they're now somebody who's an expert in this, and they're able to actually create new ideas in whatever topic that they're looking at. Now, if we were going to use this, I want to make this a little bit more concrete for folks. So let's compare this to, let's say that you're going to make dinner for your family. When you're going to the grocery store and you ask them, let's say your child's helping you, if you ask them to go to the aisle where the Cheerios are to pick up some Cheerios while you're there, they're using that skill of remembering. They're remembering where the Cheerios are, which aisle they're in. And let's say that when you come home, if you're going to ask them to tell everybody that it's time for dinner and you want them to go let the family know that it's time for dinner, they're using that skill of understanding. They understand what it means. They understand what they need to do. They're basically following a pretty simple path of, oh, I listened to mom, and now I'm going to go tell the family, what mom told me, which is it's time for dinner. Applying is where you would ask them to say, hey, would you mind helping me set the table? And in this case, they're not really creating anything new. They've used the sheet from the Grace and Courtesy pack, and they know where the fork and the knife and the spoon and the napkin and the water cup all go on the table. So they're not creating anything new, but they're applying what they know, applying what you've taught them. Analyze. So if you are asking them to put the salad on the table and find a good place to put the salad, they're using that skill of analyzing, because what they have to do is they have to come back to the table and they have to say, oh, well, where do I have room? Where is it easy for everybody in the family to reach? Where is it in a place that it's not going to fall off easily? If it's on the corner of the table, somebody's walking by, they might knock it off. So that's using the analyze skill. Evaluate. This would be where you would ask them, hey, do you think this sauce needs more pepper, or do you think it needs more salt? And you give them a spoon to try it and taste it. Now they're using the evaluate skill. They're looking, you're handing them sort of a sample to compare to all the experiences they've had and really make a judgment call. And then lastly, create. This would be the highest level, where you'd say to your child, hey, would you like to make your own specialty for the family? You know, if they're going to make like a dessert or they're going to make a side dish, and they get to make the recipe and they get to put in their own, you know, spices and combinations. So this would be an example of how Bloom's taxonomy works for education levels. This you can use this to understand where your child is in learning a subject. Now, why is this important to the Socratic method? The Socratic method, and why is this important to, let's compare this to our happiness skills, the 8 happiness skills. If we compare it to optimism, resilience, generosity, and the other 8 that we were looking at, those all require the higher level skills: create, evaluate, and analyze. You know, generosity, they're having to sort of create something out of nothing, really. You know, they're giving part of what they're giving, either their time or their resources, to something that they like, because they see that there's something missing in the world and they want to create something new. Resilience, you know, they're having to evaluate, they're having to understand where they are in the process of learning something or going through a challenge in their lives, whether it's you know, becoming better at a sport that they love to play, or a game that they like playing, or even a subject that they're learning at school. So all these skills for happiness require these top 3 learning skills. And when we compare this to how the Socratic method, like what learning skills the Socratic method is kind of strengthening, the Socratic method's very, very much so active in the analyze and the evaluate levels of learning. And those are 2 of the 3 skills that you really need for those higher level sort of happiness skills. So essentially what you're doing is you're giving your child the ability to think very critically. And really the only thing that Harvard does is gives them these same skills, these same sort of life happiness skills. They just do it really well because they've got a system around it. But what you can do is you can teach this, you can give them the same quality education in your homeschool that you'd be able to get at Harvard, because really you're just teaching them the learning skills. Once they have those, they can really go do anything. And again, once they have those skills for happiness, then it's I mean, really, what else is important to you as a parent? So
The sky really is the limit with
exactly.
that. And I love how Bloom's taxonomy really does support the Socratic method.
Absolutely. So so yeah, that's that kind of covers the why we believe that the Socratic method has the power to give your child the same education as Harvard's MBA program, and they use this in they use the Socratic method very heavily in their case study program. In fact, I believe Harvard's MBA consists of mostly case studies. All they do is they go and they study successful companies or successful leaders, Abraham Lincoln or Steve Jobs, or you know, whoever they feel is a good example for these MBA students to learn from. And then they go through and they just ask questions. They discuss what happens. Usually they give the first half of it, which is, you know, kind of the cliffhanger, where you don't know, you know, say, hey, this is this company, and you know, their product is not doing well with customers. They have these quality issues. What would you do? And then they go through and they ask these questions, and they give them the second part of the case study, which shows kind of the answer key of, you know, well, this is what they did. You know, how does this compare to how we were thinking about it? So that's why we feel very strongly about the Socratic method, and why we feel that if you use it in your home, you're raising the same level of critical thinking as at the highest institutions in university education. So.
And then James, with the next slide, the cheat sheet.
Yes.
Do you have the link for that?
Yes, I will send that out as soon as the webinar is over. I'll go ahead and send out the cheat sheet. Basically, it's got a diagram of Bloom's taxonomy, a really easy cheat sheet showing where the Socratic method works, and then the 3 mistakes, as well as the 3 ways to use it in your homeschool with the example questions.
David would like some more examples of modeling a better way to ask questions than we had watched in the video. So would you like to do some modeling activities? And we could
Sure.
even, we can give folks a microphone, right?
I don't know that I think we can if they raise their hand.
Oh,
Um,
okay.
let me see
Um,
here.
so, and I'm wondering if maybe you could ask David a question and he could give you a wrong answer, and then you could ask him some questions to help him discover his error.
Okay, yeah, that sounds great. Let's
David, are you up for that? And can you raise your hand? And we'll
let me.
experiment with this. I think this is the first time we're trying this on a webinar.
Yes, this is the first time
In
we're trying this. This is
which in our workshops at conventions, it's very interactive with the audience. And this is actually one of the activities that we do in some of our workshops. So I'd love to see if we can get it to work in.
there we go. So yeah, let's see here.
Okay, excellent. So David, if you could hit request to speak.
Let's see here.
Or Misty, would you like to participate? And if that doesn't, okay, I think we have someone with their hand up. James, if
Okay, invite speaker. Okay, Misty, are you there? Let's see here. I think she has to accept the request.
okay, and if we're not going to be able to get that interaction going, maybe would you like to ask me a question?
Sure. So yeah, let's go ahead and model that.
Okay.
So Antoinette, what is the capital of the United States?
Let's see. Portland.
Portland. Oh, so where is Portland?
Oh, Portland is in Washington State.
Washington State. Okay. So if we go to Portland, can you point to Portland on a map? And I would have a map at this point. Again, trying to get a little bit more multisensory with this.
Excellent, excellent. And then that is exactly where I find out that it is not in Washington, that it is in Oregon. And so I'm going to say, oh, wait, no, here it is. And so now I've discovered that mistake.
Yes. And then I would say, okay, good. That's great. So Portland is in, where's Portland, Antoinette?
Oregon.
Ah, good. Okay, great.
And look, it's the capital, or is it?
Yeah, no, that's right. Well, it's
okay, that's what I thought.
It's actually Salem. Sorry, Salem. I need to know my states a little better. So okay, so Portland. So where do you fly if you want to get to the capital? So do you fly to Portland?
No.
Or I would probably say something like, have you visited the capital before? Or do you know what's there?
And to right, restating and reminding that the capital of the country.
Yes.
So that's, yeah. So reminding the capital of the country, and also some questions that would be designed. Also, James, I think if you're asking some more historical things, no, is the capital of the country in an older part of the United States or a newer part.
Right.
And then 2, asking, what other areas the capital is near.
Yep. What do we know is at the Capitol? For instance,
Yes.
your
What are
child
some of the
visited.
monuments?
Exactly.
The Washington Monument would be a good one,
Yeah.
because
It has
that,
the
of
name in
course, is going
it.
to help. It could potentially trigger that memory of what the actual capital would be. And then another thing would be to go back to that map, and then start in the upper right-hand corner of the country. Okay, and what is this state, and what is its capital? And then just going down one by one, and you're going to quickly get to Washington. And then at that point, the child will probably discover their error in that. So thank you for doing that on the spot.
Yeah, no problem. Did that help you, David? Hopefully, this live example was a little
does
bit
anyone
more.
else have any questions, maybe things that have come up in your own homeschooling where you weren't quite sure how to handle the mistake?
Okay, perfect. Yeah, no
Okay.
problem. Happy to help, David. Glad it was a little bit more illuminating.
And then I had mentioned earlier too that the Socratic method can also be used in helping to correct misbehavior. And an example of that would be if your child is treating their sibling in a unkind way, in a way that we, have previously identified as unacceptable behavior. And you could ask the child, are you showing your sister respect when you do XYZ? And that can help them, without you saying, oh my gosh, you're being so rude to your sister. That question can help them self-identify and then correct even negative behaviors. So it's something that you can use in a lot of areas. It's going to be really helpful, and also help take pressure off of everyone, because it's empowering the child and helping them realize all of their decisions. Ultimately, they have ownership of all of their decisions and all of their behavior too.
Absolutely. Do you want me to go back to the last couple slides before we wrap up?
Yeah, well, let's see. Meaning moving on to that next one.
Yeah. Do you want
Okay.
to
Yep.
go on to the just explaining how it ties into the kits as well as
Absolutely.
let's see here.
Yeah, and the Socratic method, like I mentioned in the beginning, it's only one of the tools in all of the Schiller learning kits. And it's something that is used throughout, and we support that. We want you to use it not only in your Schiller learning, but in everything else. And also, I've mentioned that fail safe. If we could give you the ability to speak, I would hope that right now you would all in chorus say the Montessori 3-period lesson. That is the backup fail safe to the Socratic method, if that's not leading them into that self-discovery. So you've got the Socratic method, the Montessori 3-period lesson, it being multi-sensory, using all 4 learning styles, and Howard Gardner's theory of multiple intelligences, as well as PGP. That's another thing that is implemented, very similar to the 3-period lesson and the Socratic method. So we want you to practice the Socratic method. Let us know what you thought of the tips that you got in this presentation, and that Socratic method is going to work perfectly with all of our materials and instructions in our math and language arts kits. On the screen there, you see 2 of our Kit 1 options, the Complete Math Kit 1, and that covers pre-K to 3rd, as well as the Math Kit 1 Basic option, so that if you already have either Montessori Golden Bead or Base 10 material, that Kit 1 Basic is a great option for you. All of our kits, by the way, have a virtual option. So if you already have all of the materials and you don't particularly want to buy materials that you already have again, then the download virtual kit is going to be a great option for you. It's PDFs of all of the lesson books, some printable manipulatives, as well as all of the music files, plus all of the bonus content that you're getting when you're purchasing a physical kit. There are additional crafts and games, both math and language arts, in the customer-only download page. The next on the screen, you see our Math Kit 2, and that covers 4th all the way through pre-algebra. And not only when the student finishes with our Math Kit 2 are they very well prepared for any Algebra 1, but also well prepared for high school geometry. They are doing geometry throughout our curriculum. And then on the right side, you see our fractions kit. And that is an extensive study of fractions. Starts off with a very basic introduction of what a fraction is and takes you through the advanced fractions they're using with pre-algebra. The fractions kit in most instances is going to kind of straddle Math Kit 1 and Kit 2 for children. It's going to be most commonly added to the math work along with either book 2 or 3 in Kit 1, and they're not going to be able to finish the fractions book somewhere like in the back 20% of that fractions lesson book. It'll tell you to stop and not go any further until you reach the lessons on prime factoring that are in lesson book 6. And again, just like Math Kit 1, the Kit 2 and fractions also have virtual options, as do our language arts kits. We currently have 2 language arts kits, Kit A and Kit B. Kit A is the first 2 years of language arts, and that's going to cover generally pre-K to kindergarten. For some kids, it'll be kindergarten, 1st grade. It introduces all of the letter sounds, names, beginning reading, beginning spelling, a lot of really fun hands-on activities that are designed to promote manual dexterity that's needed for developing beautiful handwriting, plus they're learning letter formation with tracing in quinoa, with creating the letters with Play-Doh, tracing them with their feet, making them with their body. So they're getting the formation and the manual dexterity without the frustration of asking a 3 or 4-year-old to start writing. Also beginning grammar, noun, verb, article, adjective. There's literature, short-term memory practice. It's a very comprehensive language arts curriculum. And it does have, I'm not sure if the picture is big enough on your screen to see it, the movable alphabet. It's a beautiful wooden, 155-piece wooden alphabet. And we just got a brand new version of that manipulative in. It just came in right before I left for the conference last week. When I saw it, I was giddy. It's in a I really was. It's in a divided wooden box. It's got a tray lid that will also function whether you want to use that as a tray for your Montessori insets or doing the tracing activities with the quinoa. It's fabulous. I just love it. Also has 28 language arts songs. There is a song for every single letter of the alphabet and activities to go along with those. It's a lot of fun. Then that takes us into our language arts B, which is the next 3 years of language arts. That also has 4 lesson books, just like the language arts A did. And then language arts A has 1 reader that you're reading to the child, the Mother Goose rhymes. In language arts B, in addition to the 4 lesson books and the book on writing the alphabet, and that's both print and cursive, language arts B also has 4 readers. The McGuffey Eclectic Primer, I have to tell you, so many people spot that from across the way at conferences and are drawn to that, and everyone just absolutely loves that. So you've got the McGuffey Eclectic Primer, Just So Stories by Rudyard Kipling, Alice's Adventures in Wonderland, and then the Story Hour. Real quality literature selections. The kids are also going to be choosing their own reading, independent reading in addition to that. So the color-coded movable alphabet that's in Language Arts A, the vowels are in blue and the consonants are in red. That really helps those vowel patterns pop out of those words, makes it much easier to learn to read and also spelling. Then that same color coding is continued in Language Arts B with the circle kit. And you see that on the right there, you're getting a dozen of those. They are foam discs, again, in that red and blue. Now the child is creating a movable alphabet in their own handwriting. And there's letter pads that go along with that. So whether print or cursive, and they do learn cursive right from the very beginning in Language Arts B. And then those discs have slits in them, so they can slide right onto the edge of the table or the desktop. And the child has a really fun, effective, manipulative for both spelling and reading that they can use right on their work surface. My favorite, by the way, manipulative in Language Arts B are the grammar symbols. People are always so pleasantly surprised that even grammar can be made hands-on and fun. In that grammar box that you see in the middle of the Language Arts B picture, that box has 9 different shapes. There's a shape for every part of speech. And what the students will do is go through and they'll place those shapes right onto the lesson book. In the books, there are sentences, and it guides them through identifying starting off with just a single part of speech, but then working up to identifying all 9 parts of speech in sentences with the manipulative. They're very high quality, beautiful wooden shapes, again, in a divided wood box with a wood lid for those as well. Again, 28 language arts songs with that one too. And I talked a little bit more about the language arts kits because that's going to take us into the offer that we have for webinar attendees. And James, would you like to tell people about the offer?
Sure. So we're actually running a special on all of our Language Arts A and all of our Language Arts B kits. Today we're going to offer you $50 off any of those kits. That's virtual and physical. So if you would like to order one of the kits and be able to get...
That is an incredible deal.
Yeah, it's a really incredible deal considering that's probably more than 20% off, I think, the Language Arts A kit. So that's what we're offering today. If you guys would like to get one of these kits, the way that you do that is you go over to our website, and I believe the code is
Socratic.
Socratic.
I think it's Socratic. Let me just
Socratic.
double check.
Yes. Let me go ahead.
Socratic.
I'll type it in the I'll type it into the chat here. Let's see here. Actually, okay. So you guys have roughly 3 days to get this. We're actually running the sale through Thursday this week at midnight Eastern Standard Time. So if you guys would like to get this before then, we highly recommend it. We usually don't run sales on this that are this deep, at least on language arts. I haven't seen anything this much. Usually we run sales that are anywhere between 10 and 15%, unless you go to convention, but this is almost 20% off.
Yeah, it's 25% off of Language Arts B, and a little bit more. It's more than 25% off. Wait.
Yeah, because I think Language Arts A is $224. Is that right?
$229.95.
Yeah. So if you and David, yeah, that's a great question. Special for people that already have kits. As far as materials to update the kits, I'm not sure that we would be able to, like, if you have a virtual kit and you want to get the physical kit.
Yeah, David, what material in particular would you like to add to the kit that you have? Because that's actually that is a question that I've never gotten before. On as far as materials to update kits.
Yeah, I haven't seen that before.
And then James, could, just in case some of the folks already have the language arts kits, can we provide a 10% off promo code for anything else?
Yeah, if you guys wanted to get any particular, if you wanted to get materials inside the language arts kit, we could definitely do 10% off on any of those materials if you wanted to update your kits. So yeah, please.
Okay, so and the tray that I mentioned with the movable alphabet, that tray lid actually comes as part of the movable alphabet now. So we're getting that as a complete set. That's how it's coming from our supplier. It's the divided wooden box with the alphabet and the lid all together as one. So that lid isn't something that we would be able to supply separately. Now, a tray that you can use for the movable alphabet is actually our decimal material wood tray, and that is available separately on our website too. So that wooden tray can also be used for the movable alphabet, or if you want to keep any of your other manipulatives in that. And we do have folks who will buy multiple additional wooden trays to use in various ways. So that's something that you could do. The parts of speech, those are included in Language Arts B. So if you have Language Arts B, you should already have the grammar box. And that also is available individually on our website too. So if you didn't have Language Arts B, but you wanted to add that, you could certainly do that. Or if you're looking to purchase those to go along with the virtual kit. I hope that helps. Ramona, thank you. Algebra 1, this is something I am so excited for. When is Algebra coming out? And my understanding, by the way, it's not just going to be Algebra 1. It is a comprehensive 2-year algebra course. We do not have the set date on that yet. I will certainly check with the curriculum team on that and see if we are closer to announcing the date on that. But that is something I am very excited for also. My oldest 3 children that I have used Schiller Math with, they had gone on to other things after Kit 2. And I'm very looking forward to my daughter being able to continue with the ShillerLearning curriculum once she's out of the Math Kit 2. So we will update you when that is available. Does anyone else have any questions? Oh, okay. So James, that Socratic 10, is that for the 10% off?
Yes, that. So David, if you want to get the language arts, the actual tray itself, that's you can use that code right there, and you'll get 10% off that.
Okay, excellent, wonderful. So now you have 2 options. You've either got 10% off any individual pieces or any other kits, or if you're ready for the multi-sensory Montessori-based language arts experience, then you get to save big with that $50 off on any of the language arts kits. So I think we may have just made everyone happy. I hope so.
Hopefully.
Okay. Well, if there aren't any other questions, James, did you have anything else to add?
No, that's about it. I think that's the only other thing we're going to send out is the link to the cheat sheet that you guys will all have, as well as the link to the slides. So thanks for coming. We appreciate you guys sitting with us and learning about the Socratic method together. Hopefully you guys found something you could use in your homeschool today. We'd love to hear any feedback. If you guys have any of your top 3 nuggets, like Larry was asking about this morning, we'd love to hear kind of what you guys thought was most helpful, so that we can, do better on our next webinars.
Awesome.
So thanks a lot, everybody. Have a great day.
Thank you.
And look forward to seeing you on the next webinar.
Okay.
See y'all
Bye,
later.
everyone.
Have a good one.